Hello everyone, welcome to KMIT Solutions Services. My name is Raman. In this lecture, we will understand the DevOps Roadmap. So DevOps Roadmap means if you are new to DevOps world and you want to learn DevOps, then how to start. So this lecture is for you then. So DevOps is a SDLC process, software development process. Before DevOps process, there were many processes or methodologies were defined, like waterfall, agile, lean methodology, etc. But DevOps is the trending these days. Actually, it is trending since last couple of years. So DevOps is a best practice, especially for the applications which are based upon microservices. If we talk about modern way of development of the application, it is APIs, microservices, or to develop the application in parts. What does it mean? For example, you are having one banking application, and in this banking application, you need internet banking. You need, say, an example, withdrawal service. You need deposit. You need, say, an example, customer care service. So all these services are developed separately, and these are microservices, and these are developed separately, and these are deployed separately as well. And all these applications or services are invoked by banking application. So this is very loosely coupled application, which is my banking application. So banking application is invoking these services. So such kind of approach or these kind of services are called microservices. And these microservices you can develop in Java, Python, .NET, right? So these programming languages. So DevOps is a process where you divide your project into very, very small projects, okay, where the changes are very, very minor. So if we talk about in a day, if you want to uh, do multiple implementation, then you can go with the DevOps process. So DevOps is an automation process for SDLC. So here, there is no manual intervention is required. For example, you want to build the code, you want to deploy the code. So you need not to do any manual operation to deploy the code or build the code. There should be an automation process. That automation process is through some tools. Those are the tools which makes this DevOps process successful. So we will talk about some of the tools in this lecture. So let us first understand the concept of continuous integration. Now consider there is a developer. So what is continuous integration and why we are discussing? Because whenever you see the job description of DevOps interview, so you see that they are asking about CI/CD pipeline. So first we will talk about CI, and then we will talk about the CD. So CI is called continuous integration. So what is continuous integration? Consider this is a developer, and developer is writing a code into some programming language. Now this code is to be developed uh, in Java, .NET, or some programming language, right? Once this code is developed, now programmer wants that these changes, whatever developer is committing, so all the changes are to be tracked so that developer comes to know that these changes I have done 5 months ago, I want to revert back or I want to track the changes. So everything can be done with the help of a version control system. So if you are a DevOps engineer, you must be aware of the version control system. So there are many version control systems are available like GitHub, GitLab, Azure repos, code commit, etc. So it totally depends upon your project to project that which remote repository you are using to to track your changes into the version control system. Here in this diagram, I'm showing GitHub. So GitHub is one of the very popular and demanding remote repository. This is cloud-based. So here we are talking about the version control system, and this version control system is consisted of two types of repository. One is called the local repository, which is Git, and the remote repository, which is GitHub, GitLab, or depends upon that which repository you are going to use. One thing I want to clear it here that whenever you are using DevOps, DevOps is a process. DevOps is an automation process for SDLC. So it means whatever is required to make a process automate, that tool we use in the DevOps process. So it means these tools can be different for different projects. Say an example, I'm using, for example, GitHub in one of my project, but for my other project, I'm using GitLab. So it means GitHub and GitLab, right? So these are two different repositories, tools, or two different version control system to maintain the remote repository. So do we need to learn GitHub, or do we need to learn GitLab, or do we need to use GitHub, or do we need to use GitLab? So it totally depends upon your project to project. The tools which I have mentioned on this diagram, so these tools are very commonly used tools on industry level. So, so I would suggest that you can start with Git and GitHub first. So if you are comfortable with Git and GitHub, then you can easily understand other remote repository tools. Like if you want to understand about GitLab, if you want to understand about the Azure repository, it will be very easy. So you can learn any one of this, but I would suggest that first step is that you need to learn about the Git and GitHub. Now, there is a commonly asked question that Git and GitHub should be mainly used by the developer. Then why, as a DevOps engineer, I need to know about Git and GitHub? See, when we are talking about the DevOps engineer role, so DevOps engineer is always communicating with the development team, operation teams, or whosoever actors comes into the CI/CD pipeline for SDLC. So that is why you need to be aware of how developers pushing the code, what are the branches they are creating, how the code is getting conflicted, right? So if you have a proper knowledge of this, then it will be very easy for you to support the CI/CD process, right? So your step number one is that you need to understand what is uh, Git and what is GitHub. After that, if you want to learn about GitLab, Azure repos, or other tools, Bitbucket, then it will be very easy for you. But my take is that you need to start with Git and GitHub. So that will be our first step. Once you finish this version control system, um, then we can move to the build automation tool. One more thing I want to talk about this Git and GitHub tool. I want that if you can be familiar with one of the IDE. IDE is the Integrated Development Environment. Very commonly used is the Visual Studio Code. So make yourself comfortable in Visual Studio Code. Okay. So once this Git and GitHub uh, part you finish it, then that code which you are writing into the Git and GitHub, that should be compiled, or that code is to be converted into an executable file. That is why we need the build automation tool. So what is build automation tool? Build automation tool is a tool which will convert your source code into executable file. For example, you are writing a code in Java. Then Java code is to be converted into jar or var files. So these are the executable files, Java archive, web archive files, right? So how it will be automatically get converted into jar or var file? You need to use some build automation tool. For Java, the build automation tool which is mainly used is Maven. Okay. So next step will be that we need to learn the build automation tool. So build automation tool, again, it depends what programming language you are using. If you are using uh, Java, then Gradle, Maven. So these are very commonly used tool for Java-based applications. If you are using Python, then PyBuilder is the tool. If you are using .NET, then MS Build. So again, these are the tools which helps to automate the build automation. Okay. So here I'm taking that Maven or Apache Maven, which is open source. Okay. So if you know about the basic or overview that how to convert source code into executable file, or how to do the unit testing using this Apache Maven or any build automation tool, that will be enough for understanding. Okay. So your next step is that you need to learn one build automation tool. Depends upon which programming language you are using. So I'm taking here example of Apache Maven. So that will be your next step. Here I'm missing one thing, which is the Artifactory. So what is Artifactory? See, when your jar file or whenever your executable file is created, you want to create some releases. That this is my release 1 executable file, this is my release 2 executable file. So that is basically the Artifactory. So JFrog, Nexus, so these are the Artifactories. Okay. So these are two examples. There are many. Okay. So you keep your executables release-wise into this Artifactory. So next step will be that how to push the executable file to this Artifactory. So you need to understand either of these Artifactories. I would suggest JFrog, Frog, or you can use the Nexus. Okay. So that will be your next step. After build automation, you need to understand how to push your executables into the Artifactory. Then next step is that if you are using the microservice kind of approach, then you need to build your Docker image. So Docker is very important. See, there are many containerization tools are there, like Rocket, you are having Containerd, which is now a part of the Docker itself, right? Runc. But Docker is very popular. It is popular because with the help of Docker, we can create the Docker image. So Docker image is a file where you write a code, and that when you write the code, so that code is definitely you need to follow the instructions how to write the Docker file, and that Docker file will help you to create a Docker image, right? So containerization, your next step should be your containerization to learn about Docker. Okay. So Maven, after Maven, you need to understand what is containerization, and you need to understand any one of the containerization tool, but you need to learn Docker. Docker is must, especially how to create the Docker images. Then once your code is deployed in the form of container, then you can use a test or automation tool. So what is test automation tool? So test automation tool is basically testing your application automatically. So when developer is pushing the code, it should be automatically built, automatically a Docker image created, automatically a container will be running. Then when the container is running, so that integration testing I want to do with a test automation tool. Selenium is the one which is very popular or very commonly used on the industry level to test microservices or web-based applications, mobile-based applications, etc. So your next step after learning about Docker is to learn a basic understanding. You need not to go in a very deep level of Selenium, just because test or automation is majorly developed by the testing team. Okay, so they will develop this scripts or the application uh, with Selenium, Selenium with Java, Selenium with .NET, Selenium with Python. So they develop the code, and that will be the test automation script. But again, some basic knowledge of the Selenium is enough for the DevOps engineer point of view. Now, if I talk about this process, when developer is pushing the code, it is automatically built, automatically Docker image is created or container is running, then automatically testing. Then I want there should be a feedback which goes to the developer, and developer will get the report that these are the errors. Then developer will fix that error, again push the code, and this will be continuous. So there is something called a feedback. Okay, feedback is nothing but a process, like you want to send an email or something. Especially, mostly we use the email only. So for that, we need a tool which is the CI/CD pipeline tool. So Jenkins is the one which is very popular, which is developed in Java, and it is having some plugins. With the help of that, we can club all these tools into the Jenkins. Jenkins is open source, and it is a CI/CD pipeline tool. So we can use this particular Jenkins tool to develop this particular process. And this process is called continuous integration. So in continuous integration, DevOps engineer is mostly talking to the development testing team. Okay, so here you see there is no operation team role much. Okay, mostly it is the development or testing team. And this process is called continuous integration. Next one is that once this process is completed, consider testing is successful. Next part is the infrastructure as a code. Now, here, operation team work gets started. So next thing you need to understand a tool, which is the configuration management tool or infrastructure as a code tool. So what it will do, it will manage your infrastructure. Say an example, if you are having uh, some servers and you want to deploy some software like Java, Docker, or you want to create some users, so you want to make it automate. To make it automate, what you can do, you can use a tool which is infrastructure as a code tool like Ansible. Again, there are many tools are there, like there is Puppet, Chef, Terraform. Okay, but here I'm not talking about the cloud-based environment. Here I'm talking about the on-premises environment. So for premises environment, it's better to use the Ansible. Ansible is a push-based approach. So what it will do, it will basically, you are having one server, master server, and there are some agent machines. And here there will be a code or the script, and you execute this code on these agent machines, right? So Ansible will be your next step to learn about the infrastructure as a code. Then, because we need to deploy the application into the production, again, Docker, which I mentioned here, you need to learn about the Docker. And then container orchestration tool. So container orchestration tool is Kubernetes. So whatever Docker images we are creating, ultimately it will be deployed, it will be replicated, high availability, etc. That we can do with the help of the container orchestration tool. So Kubernetes is the most powerful, most demanding tool, which is for the container orchestration. So we'll deploy our application, we will monitor our application using tools like Prometheus, Grafana, which is for the visualization, etc. Or you can use Datadog, you can use Nagios. So these are the tools. So your next step is that you need to, after Ansible, you need to learn about Kubernetes. And then you need to learn one of the tool like Prometheus, Grafana, Datadog, Nagios for monitoring. So when your code is deployed into the production, this is called continuous delivery. So continuous delivery means there will be one approver who will approve your code into the production. So this is a manual approval. So this is called continuous delivery. And there is one more term which is called continuous deployment. So when this manual approval becomes automatic, means then it is called the continuous deployment, or in short, we call it CD. And this entire CI/CD pipeline, we use a CI/CD pipeline tool like Jenkins. So this will be your journey to start about the DevOps, learn version control system, learn build automation, learn Docker, an overview of testing, then learn about Jenkins after Kubernetes, or that you after Kubernetes or after Selenium, you can learn about the Jenkins. So Jenkins means you can learn at the end also. Then you can create the CI/CD pipeline. Okay. Then Ansible, Docker and Kubernetes, and monitoring tools like Prometheus and Grafana. I hope this lecture will be helpful for you to understand we need to uh, why we need to use that DevOps and what will be your learning path for this DevOps. My name is Raman. I'm signing off. Thank you.